Well, I'm sure you were very cautious this last time.
That is true.
I never thought I'd get married again. I wasn't married for 11 years, which for me is history-making. And I think the circumstances under which we met.
Imagine this, my friends. Every night, Johnny Carson sat there smiling at 30 million Americans, the most trusted man on television. But according to a crew member who worked backstage with him for over 20 years, Johnny kept a private list in his mind, a list of 7 stunning female guests who looked like perfect ladies on camera. Yet behind closed doors, they were completely consumed by uncontrollable sexual desires. One of them allegedly had secret encounters in her dressing room between takes. Another was rumored to have changed lovers so often that the crew had to rearrange the entire schedule at the last minute. And one even made Johnny himself whisper after the show, "She can't stop, no matter how hard she tries." These were the women America fell in love with on The Tonight Show. Pull up a chair, grab your coffee, and if you love real, unfiltered old Hollywood secrets, hit subscribe and turn on the bell right now. You won't want to miss what's coming. 7. Elizabeth Taylor, the violet-eyed goddess who burned too hot. Let me paint the picture for you, my friends. It was a glittering evening in the mid-1960s, let's say around the time the world was still buzzing about Cleopatra. Elizabeth Taylor stepped onto Johnny Carson's stage, her raven black hair shining under the lights, those famous violet eyes sparkling with mischief. She wore a sleek emerald dress that hugged her curves just right. When she sat down, she immediately launched into playful stories about her whirlwind romance with Richard Burton. She teased Johnny about married life, leaned over, and gave him a light, affectionate hug right in front of the cameras. The audience went wild. They were absolutely mesmerized. Johnny laughed so hard he had to wipe his eyes. It felt like the perfect Hollywood fairy tale unfolding live on television. Elizabeth's life was pure drama from the very beginning. Born in London in 1932, she was already a child star in America by age 12. She grew into the ultimate screen goddess, the breathtaking Cleopatra, the fiery Maggie in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and so many blockbuster hits. She walked down the aisle 8 times, collected diamonds the size of walnuts, survived near-death illnesses, and lived every single day at full volume. She loved passionately, fought passionately, and never apologized for wanting more out of life. But after the applause faded and the studio lights dimmed that night, according to a crew member who stood backstage with Johnny Carson for more than 20 years, the real conversation happened in the quiet hallway. Johnny pulled the man aside, lit a cigarette, and shook his head with a mix of amazement and disbelief. He whispered that Elizabeth possessed a hunger for physical intimacy that was almost impossible to satisfy. Even while she was deeply involved with Burton, she allegedly couldn't resist the thrill of new encounters. The crew member recalled Johnny saying that during one particularly long production break in the late 1960s, Elizabeth reportedly arranged secret meetings with not one, but 3 different men in a single week. A handsome young actor visiting the set, a studio executive who just happened to stop by her trailer, and even a member of the film crew who was sworn to silence afterward. One story that supposedly circulated only among the most trusted insiders claimed that on a certain night after a Tonight Show taping, Elizabeth changed her plans at the very last minute. She was supposed to fly out with Burton, but instead she stayed behind in a private suite. According to the crew member, Johnny learned that she had invited 2 different gentlemen, one after the other, to join her that same evening. The team had to scramble to rearrange security and transportation so no one outside the inner circle would notice. Johnny allegedly told the crew member, "She's like a flame that never stops burning. One man walks out the door, and before the sheets cool down, she's already looking for the next spark. It's not just desire, it's a need that never rests." The crew member said Johnny's voice carried both admiration and worry. when he added that this constant craving was exactly why Hollywood studios and publicists worked overtime to keep her private life under wraps. They feared one wrong photograph or leaked story could destroy the glamorous image millions of fans worshipped. But that wasn't even the wildest part Johnny chose to keep quiet. If these hidden stories from the golden days of The Tonight Show have you hooked, do me a favor right now. Smash that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and stay with me. We still have 5 more legendary ladies whose secrets are even more surprising. You won't want to miss what comes next. 6. Ava Gardner, the smoky-voiced siren who never said no. Close your eyes and travel with me to 1968. The Tonight Show stage was alive with energy when Ava Gardner made her appearance. That deep, husky voice of hers filled the studio like warm whiskey on a cold night. She wore a simple but devastating black dress, her dark hair falling softly around her shoulders. She told Johnny all about her wild adventures living in Spain, the bullfights, the late-night parties, the freedom she found far away from Hollywood's rules. They laughed together like 2 old pals who had seen everything. Johnny leaned back in his chair, clearly charmed, and the audience hung on every smoky word she spoke. It was pure magic. Ava's journey was one of the most colorful in all of Hollywood. Born in a tiny farming town in North Carolina, she was discovered by MGM almost by accident. She became the ultimate sex symbol of the 1940s and 50s, the sultry star of The Killers, Showboat, and Mogambo. She married 3 times, first to Mickey Rooney when she was still a teenager, then bandleader Artie Shaw, and finally the great Frank Sinatra in one of the most tempestuous romances ever recorded. She traveled the world, lived like royalty in Madrid, and always followed her heart and her desires wherever they led. Yet once the red light went off and the studio emptied, the longtime backstage crew member remembered a very different conversation with Johnny Carson. Johnny waited until most people had left, then motioned the man over. In a low whisper, he confessed that Ava possessed one of the strongest physical appetites he had ever encountered in show business. Even in her later years, she allegedly found it almost impossible to spend a night alone. The crew member said Johnny described how, after one particular Tonight Show appearance, Ava chose to stay in New York instead of flying back to Spain right away. Over the next 3 nights, she reportedly entertained a different man each evening. A charming Spanish diplomat one night, a well-known Broadway actor the second night, and on the 3rd night a young musician who had been hanging around the NBC studios. One especially vivid rumor that supposedly reached Johnny's ears involved a private party Ava hosted in her hotel suite after the show. According to the insider, she invited several male guests, and the evening became so lively that the hotel staff had to be quietly paid to look the other way. Johnny allegedly told the crew member with a mix of astonishment and concern, "That woman doesn't just enjoy companionship, she devours it. One lover leaves, and before the door closes, she's already reaching for the next. I've never seen anyone so completely unable to switch it off." The crew member recalled Johnny adding that the production team had to step in more than once to rearrange schedules and keep curious eyes away from Ava's dressing room and late-night comings and goings. He chose to stay silent on air because he understood how fragile the public image of these stars really was. This story still makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up, my friends. The irresistible siren who melted hearts on screen was ruled by desires that burned hotter than any movie script could capture. But wait, there's still more that Johnny only dared to whisper when the cameras were long gone. 5. Joan Crawford, the queen who couldn't stop. Let me take you back to October 1st, 1962, the very first night Johnny Carson took over The Tonight Show. The studio was electric. Groucho Marx had just introduced the new host when out walked Joan Crawford, 58 years old but still radiating that unmistakable movie star power. She wore a shimmering silver gown that caught every spotlight. Johnny greeted her with his signature boyish grin and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Joan Crawford, the woman who defined Hollywood glamour." The audience exploded in applause. They chatted about her Oscar-winning role in Mildred Pierce. Joan laughed warmly as she recalled those brutal 18-hour days at MGM back in the 1930s and 40s. She even joked about scrubbing floors as a poor girl in Texas before she clawed her way to the top. It was pure classic Hollywood magic. The crowd was enchanted. Joan's life was nothing short of remarkable. Born Lucille Fay Lesueur in San Antonio, she survived a harsh childhood, changed her name, and became one of the most powerful stars of the Golden Age. She had 4 marriages, to Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Franchot Tone, Philip Terry, and finally Alfred Steele of Pepsi-Cola. She adopted 4 children and always projected the image of a strong, disciplined woman who controlled every aspect of her world. But after the cameras went dark that night, according to a longtime backstage crew member who worked with Johnny for over 20 years, the real story came out. Johnny pulled the man aside in the dimly lit hallway, lowered his voice, and whispered something the crew member would never forget. He said Joan had an almost insatiable appetite for physical companionship. Even at 58, she allegedly couldn't go more than a few days without seeking out new lovers, often much younger men from the crew or bit part actors who happened to be around the studio that night. The crew member told me Johnny described how Joan would linger in her dressing room long after the show ended, her famous, intense eyes scanning the hallway. On several occasions, the team had to quietly rearrange the entire production schedule because she had arranged private meetings right there inside the NBC building between rehearsals. One rumor that circulated quietly in the writer's room claimed she once invited a young stagehand into her suite after a late-night taping, and the encounter lasted so long that the young man was late for his morning shift the next day. Johnny reportedly shook his head and said, "She goes after what she wants with the same fierce drive she used to conquer Hollywood, only this time it's not movie roles, it's men, and she doesn't stop until she's completely satisfied." He allegedly told the crew member that her hunger was so constant it surprised even him, a man who had seen nearly every vice in show business. That's why, according to The Insider, Johnny decided not to invite Joan back too frequently after that debut night. He respected her talent deeply, but the private side he witnessed made him very cautious. This one still gives me chills when I think about it. My friends, the perfect movie queen smiling for millions, while behind the curtain she lived by desires most people could never imagine. But that wasn't even the full story Johnny kept to himself. If you're shocked by what really went on after the lights went out on The Tonight Show, do me a favor right now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We've got 6 more incredible women to talk about. And trust me, it only gets more surprising from here. Don't miss a single story. 4. Lana Turner, the sweater girl siren who never slept alone. Harold leans forward, eyes twinkling with that mix of warmth and disbelief, fedora tilted just so. Let me take you back to a crisp spring evening in April 1967. Studio 6B at NBC and Rockefeller Center was packed tighter than usual. The air crackled with excitement because word had quietly spread among the crew that Lana Turner was making one of her rare returns to The Tonight Show. When she stepped out from behind the curtain in a figure-hugging white dress that glowed under the hot lights, the audience let out a collective gasp. That famous million-dollar smile lit up the entire stage. Johnny greeted her with his warmest grin, leaned in and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Lana Turner, the sweater girl who made America fall in love." They spent the next 20 minutes chatting about her classic films like The Postman Always Rings Twice and Peyton Place. Lana laughed easily, sharing funny behind-the-scenes stories from the golden days of MGM, and Johnny kept nodding in agreement, clearly charmed. The crowd was eating it up. Lana's life was the very definition of rags to riches Hollywood legend. Born Julia Jean Turner in Wallace, Idaho, she was discovered at 16 while sipping a Coke at Schwab's drugstore in Los Angeles. She went from selling ice cream on the corner to becoming one of the biggest box office draws of the 1940s and 50s. 7 marriages, a daughter who became an actress in her own right, and a public image of the ultimate glamorous, untouchable beauty who always had the world at her feet. But after the final commercial break and the house lights came up that April night, according to the longtime backstage crew member who spent over 20 years at Johnny's side, the conversation turned very private. Johnny waited until the hallway cleared, then pulled the man to a quiet corner near the green room. He lit a cigarette, exhaled slowly, and whispered that Lana possessed a personal hunger that shocked even him. The crew member recalled Johnny saying that even in her late 40s, Lana allegedly couldn't go a single night without physical companionship. During that particular visit to New York, she reportedly arranged not 1, not 2, but 4 separate encounters over a 48-hour period. A young Broadway dancer who slipped into her hotel suite at the Plaza after the show, a studio publicity man who met her for a late meeting the next afternoon, a married television executive who joined her for drinks that turned into an all-night rendezvous, and finally a handsome bit-part actor who was seen leaving her dressing room just before dawn on the 3rd day. One rumor that supposedly reached Johnny directly involved the crew having to quietly rearrange the entire taping schedule because Lana had extended her stay by an extra day simply to meet yet another admirer who flew in from Los Angeles at the last minute. The team allegedly had to pay off hotel staff and reroute security so the constant stream of male visitors wouldn't make the tabloids. Johnny reportedly shook his head and told the crew member, "She looks at you with those big eyes and you think she's the perfect lady, but the moment the door closes, she becomes someone else entirely." One man leaves, the bed is still warm, and she's already reaching for the phone to call the next. It never stops. He said the exhaustion he saw in her eyes on camera that night wasn't from the bright lights. It was from the endless pursuit that never let her rest. This one still makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. My friends, the glamorous queen everyone worshipped on screen was living a private life that burned hotter and faster than any film reel could capture. But that wasn't even the most surprising part Johnny chose to keep to himself. If these raw, never-before-told stories from behind the curtain of The Tonight Show have you completely hooked, do me a favor right now. Smash that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and stay with me. We've still got 4 more legendary ladies whose secrets will leave you speechless. You won't want to miss a single word. 3. Rita Hayworth, the Gilda goddess whose fire never cooled. Picture this, my friends. It was a warm September evening in 1960 at NBC Studio 6B. The orchestra struck up a sultry melody and out glided Rita Hayworth, the woman who once set the world on fire as Gilda. She wore a shimmering red gown that moved like liquid silk. She kicked off her shoes right there on stage, did a few light dance steps, and launched into nostalgic stories about filming Gilda in 1946. Johnny was completely enchanted. He praised her beauty and talent until the audience was cheering and whistling. They laughed together like old friends, reminiscing about the glory days of Hollywood. The whole studio felt electric. Rita's story was pure Technicolor adventure. Born Margarita Carmen Cancino in Brooklyn, she started as a teenage flamenco dancer, transformed into the ultimate pin-up girl, and became the princess of Columbia Pictures. 2 high-profile marriages, first to Orson Welles, then to Prince Ali Khan, plus years of jet-set living between Hollywood, Europe, and the international party circuit. She was the original love goddess, the woman every man dreamed about and every woman wanted to be. Yet once the final applause died and the stage went dark that September night, the longtime crew member remembered Johnny pulling him aside near the freight elevator. Johnny's voice was low and serious. He whispered that Rita's appetite for physical companionship was almost impossible to control. Even after 2 divorces and the spotlight had softened, she allegedly arranged secret meetings that kept the production team scrambling. According to The Insider, during that 1960 visit, Rita reportedly entertained 3 different men in a single 48-hour window, a wealthy European businessman who met her in a private suite at the Waldorf after the show, a well-known New York nightclub owner who joined her for a quiet dinner that lasted until sunrise, and a young dancer from the show's chorus line who slipped into her dressing room between rehearsals the following afternoon. One particularly vivid rumor that circulated only among the most trusted crew claimed that after one late-night taping, Rita hosted an impromptu gathering in her hotel suite. By the time the sun came up, 2 male guests had come and gone, and the hotel staff had to be quietly compensated to keep everything under wraps. Johnny allegedly told a crew member, "She smiles that famous smile for the cameras, but the moment the lights go out, she becomes Gilda all over again. Only this time the dance never stops. One lover leaves and she's already looking for the next. It's like a fire that refuses to burn out." He said the team had to rearrange her entire return flight schedule twice because she kept extending her stay for personal reasons. That's why, according to the crew member, Johnny decided she would appear on the show far less often after that night. This still gives me chills every time I think about it. The screen goddess who made millions swoon was ruled by desires that no studio contract could ever tame. But wait, there's still more that Johnny only dared to whisper when the red light was long gone. If you're loving these unfiltered peeks behind the golden curtain of old Hollywood, please hit subscribe right now and ring that notification bell. We've got 3 more shocking ladies to uncover, and I promise the revelations only get more intense. Stick around, you're not going to believe what's coming. 2. Jayne Mansfield, the blonde bombshell who lived at Full Throttle. Imagine the scene, my friends. It was a sweltering June evening in 1964. Studio 6B was rocking as Jayne Mansfield burst onto the stage in a skin-tight pink dress that left very little to the imagination. That million-watt smile, those famous curves, and her bubbly Texas drawl filled the room instantly. She launched into hilarious, slightly naughty stories about her life in show business. The parties, the movies, the constant spotlight. Johnny played along perfectly, trading jokes and pretending to be shocked, while the audience roared with laughter and wolf whistles. Jayne even leaned over and gave Johnny a playful peck on the cheek right on camera. The whole place was in stitches. Jayne's life was pure, unfiltered showbiz chaos. Born Vera Jane Palmer in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, she moved to Texas as a child, won beauty contests, and exploded onto the Hollywood scene as the ultimate 1950s sex symbol. 5 marriages, 5 children, dozens of films, nightclub acts, and a never-ending string of scandals that kept her name in the papers every single week. But after the credits rolled and the studio emptied that June night, the longtime backstage crew member recalled Johnny motioning him over to the side of the stage. Johnny's voice was quiet but full of genuine astonishment. He whispered that Jayne possessed one of the strongest, most relentless physical appetites he had ever witnessed. The crew member said Johnny described how, during that single visit, Jayne allegedly arranged 5 separate encounters in less than 72 hours. A young actor who met her in her dressing room right after rehearsal, a married Broadway producer who joined her for a private supper at her hotel, 2 different musicians who visited her suite on consecutive nights, and finally a studio driver who was seen leaving at dawn the morning she was supposed to fly home. One rumor that supposedly made the rounds in the writer's room claimed that after the show, Jayne hosted an after-party in her hotel suite that lasted until the early hours. By sunrise, 3 different male guests had come and gone, and the production team had to quietly cancel her morning flight and rearrange the entire next day's schedule so she could rest. Johnny allegedly told the crew member, "She's like a whirlwind. One man walks out smiling, and before the door even clicks shut, she's already dialing the next. It never slows down, not even for a minute." He said the exhaustion he saw behind that dazzling smile on camera wasn't acting. It was the toll of desires that simply never let her rest. This one still surprises me every time I remember it, my friends. The ultimate blonde bombshell America couldn't get enough of was living a private life that burned brighter and faster than any spotlight could follow. But that wasn't even the wildest secret Johnny kept locked away. If these jaw-dropping stories from the golden age of The Tonight Show have you completely hooked, do me a favor right now. Smash that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and stay glued to the screen. We've still got 3 more legendary ladies whose secrets will blow you away. You won't want to miss what comes next. 1. Bette Davis, the Iron Lady whose desires were stronger than steel. Finally, we come a chilly November night in 1969. Studio 6B at NBC felt different that evening. The air was thick with anticipation because the legendary Bette Davis was making one of her rare appearances on The Tonight Show. When she stepped out, the audience rose to their feet. She wore a simple but elegant black dress, her famous eyes sharp as daggers, that unmistakable clipped voice cutting through the studio like a whip. Johnny greeted her with genuine respect and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Bette Davis, 2-time Oscar winner and the greatest actress of her generation." They dove straight into a sparkling conversation All About Eve, trading sharp, witty one-liners that had the entire audience laughing and applauding. Bette was in top form, elegant, fierce, and completely in control. No one could take their eyes off her. It was classic, intelligent Hollywood at its finest. Bette's life was nothing short of legendary. She fought her way from the Broadway stage to become one of the most powerful stars in Hollywood history. 2 Academy Awards, over 100 films, 4 marriages, and 3 children. She was the ultimate strong, uncompromising woman who never backed down from a fight, whether it was with studio bosses or on screen. Everyone knew her as the Iron Lady who always got her way. But after the final commercial and the studio lights began to dim that November night, according to the longtime backstage crew member who worked with Johnny Carson for more than 20 years, the real Bette Davis emerged in a way few people ever saw. Johnny waited until most of the audience had left, then pulled the crew member into a quiet corner near the green room. He shook his head slowly, lit a cigarette, and whispered something that made the man's blood run cold. Johnny confessed that Bette possessed a raw, powerful sexual appetite that was far stronger than her on-screen image suggested. Even in her early 60s, she allegedly could not, and would not, go more than a few days without satisfying her intense physical desires. The crew member recalled Johnny describing how, during that 1969 visit, Bette had arranged multiple private encounters right there in New York. In just 4 days, she reportedly met with 3 different men, a distinguished Broadway director who slipped into her hotel suite at the St. Regis after the show, a much younger stagehand from the production crew who was seen leaving her dressing room late the next afternoon, and a well-known New York theater critic who spent an entire night with her before disappearing quietly at dawn. One particularly shocking rumor that supposedly reached Johnny directly involved a late-night gathering in Bette's private suite after the taping. According to The Insider, she entertained 2 gentlemen in succession that same evening, one arriving shortly after the other left. The production team allegedly had to keep absolute silence, rearrange security details, and pay off hotel staff to ensure nothing leaked. Johnny allegedly looked the crew member straight in the eyes and said, "She's got the same fire she brings to every role, but off camera it's 10 times stronger." One man walks out satisfied, and before the sheets even cool, she's already looking for the next. That woman doesn't just want companionship, she demands it, and she takes what she wants without apology. He told the crew member that the intense hunger he saw in her eyes backstage, the way she scanned the hallway, the commanding way she interacted with certain male staff, was the real reason the entire equipe had to maintain total secrecy. They feared one wrong word could destroy the unbreakable image of the iron-willed queen millions adored. This one still gives me chills every single time I think about it. My friends, the fierce, uncompromising legend who ruled Hollywood with an iron fist was ruled in private by desires even stronger than steel. And as the very last name on Johnny's secret list, Bette Davis proved that even the strongest women in Hollywood could be completely consumed by passions. No one outside the inner circle would ever dare to speak aloud. If these jaw-dropping, never-before-told secrets from behind the curtain of The Tonight Show have completely hooked you, do me a favor right now. Smash that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and stay with me until the end. We're wrapping up this list, but the final revelations are going to leave you speechless. You won't want to miss what comes next. Whew, my friends, I don't know about you, but after hearing these 7 stories tonight, I still get goosebumps every single time. Johnny Carson sat there smiling every night for 30 million Americans. But behind that famous grin, he carried the heaviest secrets in Hollywood. 7 of the most glamorous, most admired women in the world. Women we all thought we knew were secretly consumed by desires so powerful they shook the entire backstage. From Joan Crawford's insatiable hunger in her dressing room, to Elizabeth Taylor changing lovers between takes, to Bette Davis demanding satisfaction even in her 60s, Johnny saw it all, and he chose to stay silent until tonight. These are the stories Hollywood tried to bury forever. If your jaw is on the floor right now, if you're dying to know what other dark secrets Johnny kept locked away, then do this for me right now. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and join our little late-night club here at Hollywood Files. Because next week, we're opening another chapter even more shocking than this one. Which one of these 7 ladies surprised you the most? Drop her name in the comments below. I read every single one. Thank you for sitting here with me, pulling up a chair and listening to these golden age whispers. Until next time, stay curious, stay awake, and remember, what you see on the screen is never the full picture. Good night, my friends. Sweet dreams.